What's up, guys? Derek Wilcox here for Wilcox Strength Incorporated, PowerRackStrength.com, and Inzer Advanced Designs Gear. This is the beginning of my block of 10s that I normally start the meat prep macrocycle out with. When I say meat prep, we're obviously not real close to the meet right now, which is in November. It's 20-something weeks away. But this is how I begin the process in general. With bench press, doing sets of 10 here, sets of 10 across the board. But what I'm trying to do now is increase my work capacity, add some muscle size, as I was doing the last few blocks, but I'm no longer doing the short 1 minute rest like I was before. With that happening now, I'll be able to use some heavier weights, which will change the stimulus just enough, even though I'm still doing high volume work, to create a disruption in homeostasis in the body physiologically, and I'll be able to produce a little bit more hypertrophy that way. With the increasing intensity as well, it follows the overall trend from several months ago all the way up into November, with the total volume of work decreasing and intensity increasing. The nice thing about doing equipped lifting is that entire phase adds a couple of months, so you're actually following the same trend with the weights going up and the total volume going down for the most part for a very long time, and each little block potentiates the next, giving you better and better results. If you go and look at the article that I wrote about, I believe it was titled How My Meat PRs Were Made 6 months ago, I go through that entire process and explain in detail how each block that I did for that competition fed into the next and made everything better one step at a time. Here you can see I'm doing sets of 10 on squats. The weights are a little bit heavier than I used for all the short rest stuff, but since I was doing sets of 15 on short rest, the weights are going to be heavier in general. I don't think these were feeling the greatest. I was still feeling the effects of that squat day where I was doing the short rest with 15s. I believe it was 331 in pounds, 150 kilos, and it just felt terrible in general, and I had that weird sensation in my neck. Felt like something was popping in my brain, and I just wasn't feeling the greatest here. Still very fatigued. But no big deal. That's what down weeks are for. I believe this was a little bit under 300 pounds that I was doing the sets of 10 with. So even though it didn't feel that great, it wasn't fatiguing me all that much more than what I would have been doing anyway. Should be ready to go for the next week following that. Up next, we've got rack pulls, which I'm doing conventional. This is to take a little bit of stress off of my hips, hopefully, because I've had lots of hip problems in the past. 4 different cortisone shots total in my hips just to try and get through meat prep cycles. Hips are feeling pretty good in general right now. I've managed to avoid a lot of the movements that aggravate them and make sure that I'm not overtraining them and beating them up more than they should be. Good, efficient training, avoiding injuries, but still getting a good stimulus in is always the way to go, especially if you've been in the game for a real long time. Granted, I'm only 31 right now, but I've been lifting and training this way for about since I was 12 years old. What is that, 17, 18 years? Closing in on 2 decades. So with all that experience and all the loads on your back, you kind of have to be more careful. And you can't just take anti-inflammatories or any other drugs that mask all those effects, because that will bite you in the butt in the long term. Now, these side lunges are actually really great movement. I'm relatively good at them because I've done them forever. But the reason I've done them forever is because they really lengthen and strengthen a lot of the adductor muscles as well as abductor muscles in the hips. It teaches you how to spread your knees out wide and lengthens your adductor magnus specifically so that it doesn't pull your knees in because of the associated hip extension mechanism in that muscle from where it attaches in on the hips. Crack open an anatomy book and check that one out. It's a pretty wild looking muscle. Has a lot of different functions in it as far as how we squat and deadlift. But until next week, you guys take care and stay strong.